Looks like Arizona Republican state lawmakers are plotting to weaken support for an anticipated ballot measure that would protect abortion rights in the state. And this is according to some newly leaked documents. So this comes a week after Arizona's highest court, their state Supreme Court, decided to green light the revival of a 1864 total ban on abortion, which is sure to galvanize voters in the state and get them active in voting for a ballot measure that would implement a constitutional protection. It would implement an amendment to the state's constitution to protect abortion access. Now that ballot measure has already garnered more than 500,000 signatures, and you need 500,000 signatures in order to qualify for the ballot. So they have met that requirement, and they want to protect abortion until fetal viability, which was the standard set by Roe v. Wade. Now, doctors believe viability is around 22 to 24 weeks. The GOP plan, though, is to undermine that ballot initiative by including another ballot measure that's going to split the vote. So let's talk about how they plan to do that. And keep in mind that the legislature can make a ballot recommendation, and that is what it appears they're planning to do here. So the 24-slide presentation is what was leaked and what we have access to know what their plan is. It was drafted by Lindley Wilson, the general counsel to Arizona's House Republicans, and it was intended for House Republicans only, but it got spread around and Democrats were able to see it as well. So according to the proposal, the first measure would allegedly complement the Abortion Access Initiative by limiting it, giving voters something other than the extreme Abortion on Demand initiative. Now, more importantly, the presentation states the additional measure envisioned by Republicans would protect the legislature's authority to enact laws rationally related to promoting and preserving life and to protecting the health and safety of pregnant women. So they're going to make a ballot initiative that actually does protect reproductive rights seem extreme and offer up a different ballot initiative that competes with it, that's worded in a way that makes it seem like, no, this is a more reasonable approach.
Pausing here to deliver some honest truth as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's gonna make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you, thank you. This is actually the oldest trick in the book, and if you live in California, we've had to deal with this for decades. So the minute anyone proposes a ballot initiative that might help the average person, giant corporate interests come in and spend a ton of money with a ballot initiative that seems to say the same thing, but actually means the opposite. And then they run so many ads until everyone is confused. Wait, which one actually helps us? And which one hurts us? And we can't tell which one is which anymore. And then they word it in a completely confusing way. People get to the ballot and have no idea what they're doing. And the corporate donors laugh their ass off going, mission accomplished.
It's not just corporate donors though. I mean, I think in the case of California and Los Angeles in particular, there were ballot initiatives that were promoted by certain activist groups, and the public was generally misled about what those ballot measures would actually do.
Yeah, that's true, but Anna, even in that one, the most recent one we had in California, it was giant donors that randomly were backing this thing that is going to make traffic more congested.
HLA, yes, that's a Los Angeles initiative that unfortunately passed overwhelmingly and will make commuting for the vast majority of people who work in Los Angeles, they have to commute because they can't live close to work, it's too expensive. It's gonna make their commutes unbearable. It's gonna double their commute time.
And on purpose, they call it a road diet. But did they pitch it that way?
No, they did not.
No, what they did was they ran ads about how environmentally friendly it is, et cetera, et cetera. And you could believe or disbelieve those ads, you could like or not like that ballot measure. But our point here is, when something is a popular ballot measure in situations like this, the bad guys immediately come in trying to confuse you. Why do they do that? In this case, it's Republicans who know that the people of Arizona do want abortion rights.
Yes.
So that's why they're meeting and conspiring. How can we confuse them so they vote against their own interests?
Let me give you
but hold on, did it ever occur to Republicans in that state, who by the way control the legislature, that you might want to serve your constituents' interests in a democracy?
No, they don't care about that. They want to get what they want. They don't want to serve the people. They want to serve themselves and what their personal opinions and interests are. But here's an example of how they intend to mislead. So Republicans could choose for their competing ballot measure a short title for a measure like Protecting Pregnant Women and Safe Abortions Act, Wilson suggested in the presentation. And that's another thing that you'll see in a lot of cases involving ballot measures. The way that they're titled oftentimes ends up being super misleading. Now, phase one could be implemented with or without a second phase, which would be to send voters to other options that conflict with the Abortion Access Initiative. Under the proposed phase two, the legislature would refer a 6-week ban and a second measure the memo describes as a 14-week law disguised as a 15-week law because it would only allow abortion until the beginning of the 15th week. So in other words, they're advocating for intentionally misleading the voters. I mean, it's just so abundantly clear based on this presentation that was leaked to, at first, Democrats in the state legislature and now the general public. And by the way, the 6-week ban, which they call the Heartbeat Protection Act, would allow for exceptions for rape or incest. But again, we all know how that works out. We saw how that played out when it came to a woman who was unfortunately pregnant with a non-viable fetus, meaning the fetus was not going to survive. The pregnancy put her future fertility at risk. And when she made her case before judges in Texas, they basically said, no, we're not going to allow you to have an abortion, and she had to travel out of state in order to get one. So the exceptions for rape and incest, think about how that would actually play out, and the decision is left to the courts. And so you're a woman, you have to prove that you've been raped in order to get the abortion access that you need. Now, the memo also suggests that one of the pros of this strategy would be to make it more likely that the Arizona for Abortion Access Initiative will fail due to the vote being split, Wilson wrote. One downside, she added, would be that the initiatives would transfer regulation of abortion from the legislature to the voters. And you wouldn't want that, right, Cenk?
Yes, so that's the thing with Republican politicians. Oftentimes they're against their own voters too, not in this case.
No, in this case they are. They're like intentionally misleading Arizonans who, according to polls, want to maintain reproductive rights.
No, of course. What I mean by their own voters is the Republican base, right?
Yeah.
So probably the majority of the Republican base is still nominally pro-life, although tons of Republicans are pro-choice now and are finding out for the first time in their lives that it turns out they were pro-choice and never knew it. They're like, oh man, I'm pro-life, sanctity of life. Oh, my rights? No, I want to keep my reproductive rights. Yeah, that means you're pro-choice, okay? So, but most of the time, Republican legislators and politicians change either introduce ballot measures to confuse you or change the words. So, the American people don't like torture. Let's change that to enhanced interrogation. The American people like estate tax because it takes money from Conrad Hilton, who's passed away, and instead of giving it all to Paris Hilton, who didn't earn it at all, gives a huge chunk of it to Paris Hilton, but takes some for the American people to give opportunity so that other people could be like Conrad Hilton. Well, the American people like that estate tax, so let's change the name to death tax. Can you believe they're taxing poor average Americans when they die? Well, it doesn't apply to anyone unless they've left more than $10 million. Every time they're incredibly unpopular, they try to confuse you, which for Republican politicians is almost every time.
Yeah, and to just show you how unserious and I guess flippant they are when it comes to an issue that overwhelmingly impacts people's lives, right? The slide presentation ends with this, okay, so that's it, boom, easy as that. Misleading voters and tricking them into potentially splitting their vote and defeating something that they, based on polls, would actually want implemented in their state. Easy as that, this is how you do it, let's go for it. Don't leak this though, we don't want the wrong eyes to see it.
100%. And last thing I'll say is, look, honestly, all of American politics is based on this. What is all the money in politics for? It's all to buy misleading ads to trick you into voting in favor of corporate rule when the average American doesn't want corporate rule at all. You want higher wages, you want to be able to have health care for your family. Well, how are they going to get you to vote against your own interests? They're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars in ads to pretend that they're on your side for the average guy when they're in fact working for those corporate donors. Hey, thanks for watching that video. We really appreciate it, guys. And we appreciate it if you become members, because that allows us to be independent, honest, progressive, all the things that you don't get from corporate media. And all of that is because of you guys. Hit the join button below and become one of us. Become a young Turk.